In the midst of the city's unending motion, you are bombarded by stimuli, honking cars, flashing screens, urgent notifications, and endless demands from work, friends, and family. Each moment seems to pull at your attention, fragmenting your focus and stirring your emotions. For women navigating urban life, this constant pressure is more than an inconvenience. It is a persistent threat to your mental equilibrium. How can you remain unshaken, grounded, and composed when everything around you races forward? The answer lies in mastering your reactions before they master you. Imagine embodying the archetype of Medusa not as a monster, but as a figure of psychological fortitude. Her gaze petrifies, not out of malice, but as a metaphor for unyielding presence. To be like Medusa in today's world means developing a mental armor that allows you to respond intentionally rather than reacting impulsively. It is a practice of observing external chaos without surrendering to it. In the urban jungle, the ability to maintain your composure transforms ordinary stress into opportunities for clarity, insight, and strength. Every time the city tests you through deadlines, crowded commutes, or social expectations, you have a choice: to mirror the frenzy around you or to meet it with deliberate calm. Mastering your reactions does not mean numbing your emotions. It means cultivating awareness of your triggers, observing them with impartiality, and responding with precision. Like Medusa, whose gaze commands attention, your mental presence can define the space around you. By strengthening your inner mind, you reclaim authority over your life, even amid external chaos. This journey requires intentional practice. Stoic philosophy teaches that while we cannot control the world outside, we can control our perceptions, judgments, and choices. Urban stress is inevitable, but the suffering it causes is optional. Each moment of irritation, anxiety, or overwhelm becomes a training ground for resilience. By embracing this mindset, you transform ordinary city stress into a crucible for inner mastery. Today, you are invited to stand like Medusa, unshaken, aware, and fully present. The streets, the screens, and the endless demands will not dictate your inner state. By learning to master your reactions, you gain freedom. Freedom from constant emotional turbulence, from overreaction, and from the unnoticed erosion. The urban world is a relentless teacher. Women living and working in fast-paced cities face constant stressors, from noisy commutes and social pressures to professional deadlines and digital overload. This environment challenges not only your productivity but your emotional stability. How do you maintain composure, focus, and resilience when everything around you is designed to fragment your attention? The answer lies in mastering your reactions, a skill that transforms anxiety into clarity and pressure into empowerment. In this series, you will learn how to embody the archetype of Medusa as a tool for modern psychological strength. Medusa's legendary gaze represents unwavering awareness and the ability to assert boundaries without aggression. Translating this into real-life practice means observing your emotional responses, choosing your actions deliberately, and cultivating an unshakable inner core. Each lesson is grounded in psychology, Stoic philosophy, and practical strategies tailored for women navigating urban life. By the end of this journey, you will gain concrete tools to slow down your reactions, manage overwhelming stress, and reclaim authority over your mind, even when external circumstances are chaotic. This is not about suppressing feelings, it is about strengthening the mind so that you respond with intentionality, not impulse. Take a moment now. If you are ready to reclaim your mental space and build resilience, like this video, subscribe for more insights, and leave a comment below telling us where you are watching from your city and country. This connection reminds us that, no matter the streets we walk, we are united in the pursuit of inner strength. Urban life moves at a relentless pace, constantly testing your patience, focus, and emotional stability. The honking cars, crowded streets, buzzing notifications, And tight deadlines create an environment where reactions are often automatic, impulsive, and draining. For women navigating these spaces, mastering your reactions is not a luxury, it is a necessary skill for preserving mental health and cultivating personal power. To be like Medusa is to develop an inner stillness that allows you to observe the chaos without being consumed by it. This does not mean ignoring stress. It means confronting it with awareness, clarity, and control. Psychology teaches that our reactions are heavily influenced by automatic thought patterns, past experiences, and perceived social expectations. Urban stress often triggers anxiety and irritability, which can escalate if unchecked. By cultivating mindfulness and reflective awareness, you create a space between stimulus and response, a space where deliberate choices replace reactive impulses. This is the essence of the Medusa archetype applied to modern life, a presence that does not surrender to external forces, but instead defines the interaction on her terms. Each glance, each decision, each moment of engagement becomes an opportunity to reinforce mental resilience. Stoicism provides a philosophical framework to strengthen this mental armor. Marcus Aurelius emphasized that we cannot control external events, only our judgments of them. In the city, countless factors are beyond control: the traffic, the crowded elevators, social pressures, and unpredictable colleagues. What is within your control, however, is your interpretation, your reaction, and your ability to maintain equanimity. By consistently practicing this awareness, you gradually build a buffer against the city's stressors. Urban life becomes less of a trigger and more of a training ground, a place to exercise emotional mastery, patience, and strategic action. Practical steps to strengthen your reactions include structured reflection, journaling, and mental rehearsals. Before responding to a stressful situation, pause and assess: what am I reacting to? Is my response aligned with my values? How can I act in a way that preserves my integrity and composure? Women who adopt this habit find that impulsive frustration diminishes, replaced by intentional engagement. Medusa's metaphorical gaze serves as a reminder: maintain awareness, set boundaries, and project calm authority, even when the environment feels hostile or overwhelming. Urban life also demands emotional boundaries. The pressure to please everyone, respond immediately, or appear constantly competent can fragment your focus and energy. Drawing from the Medusa archetype, women can learn to set boundaries without isolation. It is not about rejecting connection. It is about choosing where to direct your energy and refusing to let external chaos dictate your inner state. This might mean turning off notifications, establishing quiet routines, or selectively engaging with demanding social dynamics. The goal is consistent: maintain presence and clarity in a world designed to scatter attention. Daily practices reinforce this mental discipline. Begin the day with a brief reflection or meditation, envisioning the challenges ahead and rehearsing calm responses. Notice when anxiety arises and consciously label it: this is a stimulus. My response is my choice. Apply grounding techniques during moments of stress: slow breaths, mindful observation, or a mental checklist of priorities. Over time, these practices build a reflexive capacity to respond with intentionality, rather than being pulled into reactive patterns. Medusa's strength lies in her gaze. Your strength lies in your awareness and deliberate control over your responses. Emotional regulation in urban contexts also requires self-compassion. Recognize that lapses are natural and learning opportunities. Even the most disciplined mental armor will encounter friction in high-stress situations. What matters is the ability to recalibrate, reflect, and continue practicing. Resilience is cultivated, not innate. Each conscious response reinforces the neural pathways that allow for calmer engagement, even amid chaos. By embracing this approach, stress transforms from a source of depletion into a catalyst for personal growth. Finally, mastery of reactions enhances social dynamics. Women who maintain composure inspire confidence and respect. By modeling calm, deliberate behavior, you influence the energy around you, creating environments where thoughtful action is valued over impulsive emotion. This mirrors the Medusa archetype, a presence that commands attention without aggression, that asserts authority through poise rather than force. In the urban arena, this ability is a form of empowerment, turning potential overwhelm into a strategic advantage. In summary, mastering reactions in a fast-paced world is a combination of psychological awareness, stoic reflection, practical habits, and consistent boundary setting. Women who embrace the Medusa archetype cultivate mental resilience, deliberate engagement, and inner stillness amidst the relentless pace of urban life. By observing chaos without surrendering to it, setting clear emotional boundaries, and practicing intentional responses, the city becomes not a source of constant stress, but a proving ground for strength, focus, and personal empowerment. The power of presence, like the legendary gaze of Medusa, redefines the urban experience from a test of endurance to a stage for mastery. Urban life constantly applies pressure deadlines, social expectations, commuting stress, and digital overload create a persistent tension that can fracture focus and emotional stability. Women navigating these environments often feel the weight of unrelenting demands, leaving little space for reflection or calm. To be like Medusa is to transform this pressure into a tool for mental fortitude. Instead of perceiving stress as purely negative, it becomes a mirror, revealing areas for growth, resilience, and strategic action. Stress itself is neutral. How you interpret and respond to it defines its impact on your mind. Psychological research underscores that stress triggers automatic emotional responses, often amplifying anxiety, irritability, or fatigue. When unchecked, these reactions reinforce a cycle of emotional depletion and cognitive overload. By practicing awareness and deliberate response, you can interrupt this cycle. The Medusa archetype serves as a metaphorical model. Her gaze halts chaos, turning what could be destructive energy into a form of controlled influence. Women can emulate this approach by observing their stress triggers without judgment, creating an inner buffer that allows thoughtful action rather than impulsive reaction. Stoicism offers practical strategies to convert pressure into strength. Epictetus emphasized the distinction between what is within our control and what is not. Urban stressors, traffic jams, social conflicts, workplace demands exist beyond personal control. The reaction to these pressures, however, is entirely yours. By consistently reminding yourself that perception shapes experience, you transform external stress into an exercise in resilience. Each challenge becomes an opportunity to refine your focus, fortify emotional boundaries, and cultivate mental discipline. Over time, repeated practice strengthens the neural pathways that enable calm decision-making even under intense pressure. Practical exercises help women implement this mindset. Begin by identifying recurring sources of stress and evaluating your typical responses. Observe where you tend to overreact, become distracted, or internalize tension. Next, implement structured pauses before responding. Inhale, assess, and choose your course deliberately. Journaling reflections after challenging encounters can reinforce insights, highlighting patterns and reinforcing the habit of mindful response. Medusa's symbolic gaze reminds you to maintain presence, assert boundaries, and project calm authority, transforming reactive energy into a form of controlled strength. Daily routines also contribute to mental resilience. Set aside moments of solitude, even brief, to center yourself before engaging with the urban pace. Incorporate micro-practices such as breathwork, mindful walking, or focused attention exercises during transit or breaks. These small interventions strengthen your capacity to remain anchored amidst chaos, enabling more intentional engagement. Establishing rituals that emphasize self-control and reflection ensures that pressure becomes a consistent teacher rather than a relentless adversary. Boundary setting is essential. Urban life often pressures women to overcommit, overperform, or overextend emotionally. Medusa's archetypal lesson emphasizes protective presence. Define limits without withdrawing from meaningful connection. This could mean setting clear work-life boundaries, reducing unnecessary social obligations, or consciously curating the environments that demand your attention. By protecting your mental space, you create a foundation from which stress becomes manageable, and emotional energy is preserved for deliberate, impactful action. Mindset reframing is another powerful tool. Instead of interpreting stress as a threat, view it as an indicator of areas requiring adaptation or mastery. Each moment of urban pressure provides feedback, a signal to strengthen resilience, refine focus, or clarify priorities. By treating challenges as neutral stimuli rather than personal attacks, you reduce emotional reactivity and increase your capacity to respond strategically. This perspective aligns with the Medusa archetype, an empowered gaze that perceives without being consumed, transforming potential overwhelm into opportunity for growth. Resilience also involves cultivating patience. Urban challenges rarely resolve instantly, and repeated exposure to stress is inevitable. Patience allows women to navigate prolonged periods of tension without succumbing to fatigue or frustration. By embracing patience as a deliberate practice, you convert external pressure into mental training, reinforcing the capacity to maintain composure in the face of continuous demands. Medusa's presence embodies this calm authority, signaling that strength arises not from avoidance but from sustained engagement with difficulty. Social interactions in the city are another domain where pressure can erode composure. Women often face conflicting expectations, unsolicited advice, and subtle social judgments. By applying the Medusa archetype, you can navigate these interactions with assertive detachment, listening without over-identifying, engaging without overcommitting, and responding from a grounded inner state. Psychological research shows that emotional regulation in social contexts enhances well-being and reduces chronic stress, creating a virtuous cycle of increased resilience. Ultimately, transforming pressure into mental strength is a continuous practice of awareness, reflection, and boundary setting. Women who adopt the Medusa archetype cultivate the ability to convert stress into growth, turning reactive impulses into deliberate action. Urban life remains fast-paced, noisy, and demanding, but with intentional strategies, the mind becomes a fortress. Strength lies not in avoiding pressure, but in harnessing it, observing, choosing, and acting with precision. By mastering this approach, women gain not only resilience but also a profound sense of agency, demonstrating that the city's relentless pace can forge, rather than fracture, their inner strength. The city is a constant bombardment of stimuli, each vying for your attention. Notifications, emails, social expectations, and environmental noise create an overload that can fragment focus and increase anxiety. Women navigating these urban realities often feel stretched thin, as if the mind itself is being pulled in multiple directions at once. To be like Medusa is to cultivate a protective stance over your mental space, ensuring that external pressures do not compromise clarity, composure, or personal power. Guarding the mind is not about isolation, it is about selective engagement and strategic presence. Psychology emphasizes that cognitive overload is a significant contributor to stress and burnout. When attention is continuously divided, the prefrontal cortex struggles to regulate emotions and make rational decisions. Women, in particular, often face compounded pressures from professional, social, and familial roles. By applying awareness and deliberate mental structuring, you can create internal buffers that prevent external chaos from hijacking your thoughts. The Medusa archetype embodies this principle, a vigilant gaze that asserts boundaries and maintains integrity amidst distraction. Stoicism reinforces the practice of guarding your mind. Seneca taught that tranquility is achieved when we control what lies within us and relinquish attachment to what we cannot change. In an urban context, countless external factors, traffic, social noise, unexpected demands are beyond personal control. Your internal state, however, remains sovereign. By recognizing that mental peace is a choice, women can cultivate resilience and autonomy. Guarding the mind means consistently prioritizing internal calm over reactive engagement, transforming the city from a source of chaos into a training ground for mastery. Practical strategies to maintain mental clarity include structuring attention, managing input, and creating intentional pauses. Limit exposure to excessive notifications, social media, or non-essential interactions. Allocate time blocks for focused work and periods of deliberate solitude where you can reset and reflect. Medusa's gaze symbolizes the ability to observe without being consumed. Similarly, protecting your mental space requires deliberate attention management, allowing you to respond intentionally rather than react impulsively. Daily reflection supports this mental fortification. Begin and end each day with a brief assessment. What external pressures influenced your mind? And how effectively did you manage your responses? Journaling observations, emotional triggers, and successes reinforces self-awareness and strengthens decision-making. Women who engage in this practice find that mental overload decreases, replaced by clarity and a sense of command over their inner state. The Medusa archetype serves as a constant reminder. Guard your focus, maintain presence, and do not relinquish authority over your mind. Boundaries extend beyond attention management. Emotional and social boundaries are critical for maintaining resilience. Urban life often demands constant availability, generating stress and diminishing energy. Learning to say no, limit engagement, or defer non-essential commitments is a form of empowerment. Medusa's presence represents unwavering assertion. Women can translate this archetype into everyday practices that protect emotional and cognitive resources without disengaging from meaningful interactions. Mindfulness is a key tool for guarding the mind. Observing sensations, emotions, and thoughts as they arise without judgment creates a buffer between stimulus and response. Women practicing mindfulness develop the ability to notice when mental overload begins, allowing proactive intervention rather than reactive spiraling. Even brief moments of breath-focused attention or mindful walking during commutes contribute to sustained cognitive resilience. Over time, these practices strengthen mental endurance, enabling clarity amid persistent urban demands. The city also challenges decision-making. Choices often arrive in rapid succession, leaving little time for reflection. By cultivating mental protection, women can create a deliberate pause before responding, assessing priorities and potential consequences. This mirrors the Medusa archetype, measured, deliberate, and unyielding. Thoughtful responses prevent mental exhaustion and reduce the accumulation of stress that arises from reactive, impulsive decision-making. Social dynamics further test mental boundaries. Women often face subtle pressures to conform, overperform, or engage in relational labor that depletes energy. Guarding the mind involves discerning when engagement serves purpose and when it compromises clarity. By asserting selective attention and energy, women maintain focus on objectives, values, and priorities. transforming urban interactions into opportunities for strategic engagement rather than sources of distraction. Ultimately, guarding the mind against urban overload is a holistic practice combining awareness, structured attention, boundary setting, and reflection. Women who embody the Medusa archetype cultivate resilience, mental clarity, and emotional autonomy, ensuring that the city's relentless pace does not erode inner stability. By observing without surrendering, prioritizing focus, and responding with intention, the mind becomes a fortified space. Urban life may be fast, complex, and demanding, but with deliberate practice, pressure transforms from a threat into an arena for cultivating inner strength, presence, and empowered agency. Urban life is inherently social, yet the constant interaction, demands, and noise can erode mental stability. Women often feel pressure to be continuously available professionally, socially, and digitally, leaving little time for self-reflection or restorative solitude. To be like Medusa is to reclaim the power of solitude not as isolation, but as a conscious tool for mental resilience. Solitude provides space to observe internal reactions, process experiences, and restore composure. In this way, what the world presents as isolation becomes an act of empowerment. Psychology demonstrates that restorative solitude enhances emotional regulation, cognitive clarity, and self-awareness. When attention is pulled in multiple directions, the mind can become reactive, anxious, or depleted. Women who intentionally carve out moments of solitude create an environment for reflection, calm, and strategic planning. The Medusa archetype embodies this capacity. Her gaze alone establishes boundaries, her presence commands respect. Likewise, solitude in a crowded city becomes a protective tool, enabling women to observe the chaos without surrendering to it. Stoic philosophy reinforces the necessity of solitude as a practice of self-mastery. Seneca advised retreating to one's inner citadel to reflect and renew. In urban environments, stepping back even briefly from the frenzy of schedules, social obligations, and digital stimuli strengthens resilience. Solitude is not withdrawal from responsibility. It is a deliberate cultivation of clarity. By consistently practicing this, women build an inner foundation that allows for deliberate, composed responses to urban stressors rather than being swept away by them. Practical strategies for integrating solitude include micro-retreats and structured routines. Even short periods such as quiet mornings, mindful walks, or intentional pauses during commutes provide restorative mental space. During these moments, focus on observing thoughts without judgment, identifying emotional triggers, and reaffirming personal priorities. These practices echo the Medusa archetype, maintaining a vigilant, empowered presence while engaging selectively with the surrounding world. Solitude becomes both a shield and a training ground for inner strength. Boundary setting complements solitude. In urban contexts, women often face social or professional pressures that intrude upon personal mental space. Establishing clear limits, turning off notifications, declining unnecessary meetings, or limiting social obligations ensures that solitude is protected and functional. By consciously choosing engagement, women prevent mental exhaustion and preserve cognitive resources, reinforcing their capacity for calm and deliberate response. Daily reflection enhances the power of solitude. Journaling, contemplative thinking, or guided self-inquiry allows women to integrate experiences, identify patterns, and reinforce adaptive strategies. Recognizing emotional triggers, habitual reactions, and sources of stress strengthens self-awareness, making future encounters more manageable. The Medusa archetype serves as a symbolic guide, a presence that observes without attachment, transforming potential threats into opportunities for insight and mastery. Solitude also fosters creativity and problem-solving. Urban stress often induces tunnel vision, where rapid responses override thoughtful consideration. By retreating into moments of mental stillness, women can assess challenges more comprehensively, consider alternatives, and act with intentionality. Like Medusa's gaze, which transforms perception, solitude allows women to reinterpret circumstances, uncover opportunities, and approach stress with strategic insight rather than impulsive reaction. Emotional resilience grows from consistent engagement with solitude. Moments alone cultivate self-reliance, reduce dependence on external validation, and strengthen confidence in personal judgment. Women learn to navigate social and professional demands without compromising inner composure. Urban environments may press relentlessly, but solitude provides a sanctuary where the mind can recalibrate, reinforcing the capacity to respond thoughtfully rather than reactively. Mindfulness practices further amplify the benefits of solitude. Observing breath, bodily sensations, or passing thoughts anchors attention in the present, fostering a calm yet alert mental state. Over time, these practices reduce susceptibility to overstimulation and enhance clarity during high-pressure situations. The Medusa archetype reminds women that strength comes from awareness and presence. A mind fortified through solitude is prepared to face external stress with precision and poise. Ultimately, cultivating solitude as a source of resilience empowers women to navigate urban life with intention and strength. By intentionally withdrawing into mental space, setting clear boundaries, and reflecting on internal experiences, women develop a fortress of calm amidst chaos. The city's pace, noise, and demands no longer dictate their emotional state. Solitude becomes a proactive tool, an assertion of agency, presence, and the capacity to master reactions. Like Medusa, women embody a presence that is deliberate, unyielding, and empowered, turning moments of isolation into a foundation for sustained mental strength. Anxiety is a constant companion in urban life, particularly for women juggling multiple roles, expectations, and responsibilities. The city amplifies uncertainty, unpredictable schedules, social pressures, and sensory overload can create persistent tension. To be like Medusa is to transform this anxiety from a source of paralysis into a tool for strategic awareness. Instead of reacting impulsively to stress, women can learn to interpret anxious signals as information, guiding deliberate, intentional responses that preserve mental stability and empower action. Psychology teaches that anxiety often arises from anticipatory thinking, focusing on potential threats or negative outcomes rather than present realities. Women frequently experience heightened sensitivity to both personal and social expectations, increasing the likelihood of overreaction. By cultivating mindfulness and reflective practices, it becomes possible to identify these patterns early. Observing anxiety without judgment allows women to recognize its triggers, distinguish between imagined threats and real challenges, and consciously choose responses. This capacity mirrors Medusa's archetypal gaze, alert, discerning, and unyielding. Stoicism provides a philosophical framework for managing urban anxiety. Epictetus emphasized that external events are beyond our control, while our judgments and reactions remain our own. Anxiety often stems from attempting to control what is uncontrollable: traffic delays, social dynamics, or professional demands. By internalizing this principle, women can reframe anxiety as a signal, not a threat. Each anxious moment becomes a prompt to assess priorities, adjust expectations, and act within the sphere of influence. In doing so, stress transforms into a strategic tool rather than an emotional burden. Practical strategies for channeling anxiety include structured reflection, journaling, and scenario rehearsal. Women can examine anxious thoughts, identify what is actionable, and discard what lies outside their control. Mental rehearsals visualizing responses to challenging situations reduce uncertainty and enhance confidence. Like Medusa's gaze, which commands attention and transforms perception, these practices enable women to convert reactive fear into measured, deliberate action. Breathwork and grounding techniques serve as immediate interventions. When anxiety spikes, slow, intentional breathing, combined with sensory awareness focusing on what you can see, hear, and feel in the present anchors attention and reduces emotional escalation. Over time, consistent application strengthens neural pathways associated with calm and focused decision-making, reinforcing the ability to maintain composure in high-pressure urban contexts. Boundary setting is critical in managing anxiety. The city often presents relentless demands, social obligations, professional expectations, and digital intrusions. Women who establish limits declining non-essential engagements, defining personal space, and prioritizing mental health create protective frameworks that reduce cumulative stress. Medusa's archetypal presence models this behavior, strong, clear, and deliberate, with an unwavering commitment to personal integrity. Mindset shifts further empower women. Reframing anxiety as a form of alertness rather than weakness encourages proactive behavior. Each wave of tension signals areas requiring attention, preparation, or strategic adaptation. By viewing urban stressors through this lens, women cultivate agency, resilience, and mental clarity. The anxiety that once felt like a threat becomes an ally in decision-making and self-protection. Daily routines enhance strategic awareness. Setting aside quiet reflection, journaling experiences, and reviewing priorities allow women to integrate lessons from anxious moments into long-term resilience. Practices like mindful observation during commutes, focus planning, and deliberate pauses between interactions reinforce calm decision-making. Over time, these routines embed the capacity to navigate urban life with intentionality and mental fortitude. Social dynamics also require strategic engagement. Women frequently face unsolicited advice, judgments, or conflicting demands. By applying a Medusa-inspired approach, one can listen without over-identifying, engage without overcommitting, and respond from a grounded state of awareness. This reduces emotional reactivity, preserves mental energy, and transforms potential social anxiety into conscious, controlled interaction. Ultimately, turning anxiety into strategic awareness is about transforming perception, response, and energy. Women who embody the Medusa archetype cultivate vigilance, intentionality, and calm authority amidst the urban storm. Anxiety becomes a signal rather than a threat. Pressure becomes a tool rather than a burden. And the city's relentless pace becomes an arena for mental training. By observing, reflecting, and responding with deliberation, women transform urban stress into empowerment, mastering their minds and asserting their presence with precision, poise, and resilience. Urban life tests your mind, your patience, and your emotional resilience at every turn. Women navigating these fast-paced environments face pressures that can fragment focus, amplify anxiety, and erode confidence. Yet within this challenge lies opportunity, the chance to cultivate inner strength, deliberate presence, and unwavering composure. By mastering your reactions, setting boundaries, embracing restorative solitude, and transforming anxiety into strategic awareness, you reclaim authority over your mental and emotional world. The city's chaos no longer dictates your inner state, you do. The archetype of Medusa serves as a guide, a symbol of vigilance, clarity, and unyielding presence. Her gaze teaches that strength arises not from aggression or withdrawal, but from conscious awareness, deliberate action, and protective self-possession. Women who embody this archetype in daily life cultivate resilience, mental clarity, and authentic power. Urban stress becomes a mirror reflecting growth, focus, and mastery, rather than a source of overwhelm or fear. Each challenge is an opportunity to exercise control, refine judgment, and assert boundaries. Stand like Medusa. Observe without surrendering, respond without reactivity, and maintain presence without compromise. In a world moving faster than the mind can follow, your power lies in stillness, intentionality, and unwavering self-possession. This is the manifesto of urban resilience: calm in the storm, strength in solitude, clarity in chaos. Be like Medusa, not consumed by the world, but mastering it through presence, reflection, and disciplined mind.